by a gaggle of ruthless, merciless thugs. It's the same elitist class. It's that same mentality of people that are running roughshod over humanity today. When they have their way, with Satan, when Satan's rule, the darkness reigns in the land. He knew what was going to happen, and the poor he knew we were going to always have. Does that mean we should accept it? And we should be so complacent, indifferent about their woes and needs and concerns? Well, remember, that's your brother, that's your sister, and God's going to hold you accountable for the thoughts you held in your heart and in your mind and in your spirit and in your soul. Okay? They're not dying because they're lazy or on drugs. Everybody wants to feel relevant. Why don't we demand justice? Why don't we demand progress? Why don't we demand full employment? Everybody wants to feel relevant. Everybody wants to serve. For crying out loud, don't accept what's being dished out by this ruthless gaggle of thugs. For crying out loud, if you're an American, appreciate your First Amendment. Use it or lose it. Speak out. Demand justice. Demand a semblance of economic equality, of social economic justice. Speak out. Be somebody. Give a damn. That's loving. Jesus said the greatest commandment is this: love God above all else, because He gave you the wherewithal to survive, to do everything that you do. To say, hey, it's freezing cold. I need to do something. I need to make a fire. So as human beings, we don't need fur, because we got a brain that God gave us. And we know how to heat our homes. And when it's too hot, we know how to cool them. We built a fan, an air conditioner. And we don't have to beat our clothing against a rock to get it clean. He gave us the intelligence to build a washing machine. And we don't have to walk everywhere or demand that a horse do our walking for us. We built automobiles, vehicles, aeroplanes, trains, so that we could get around more easily because we wanted to, This helps us to understand why God did what He did, why He did all the creating. We're an expression of Him. He did it because He wanted to. What greater reason? Isn't it the most fun thing you do is what you want to do when you recreate? You spend time with your family. You're doing what you want to do. You're hanging out with friends. People you like, people you love, people you want to be around. And it feels good to have a nice discussion about interesting things. We're here for a reason. And if things aren't right, it's our job to help set them right. To demand, hey, listen, I know the difference between necessary and unnecessary suffering. Okay? And I'm here to tell you the difference. And I want to spell out a few of those things right now. I'm going to ask that, everybody understand, I'm not against education. I'm for it. I'm for you getting all the education in whatever field or fields of interest that you want. But I ask this, please, don't be well educated but ill-informed. Please, have basic wisdom, understanding that's been passed on through the ages of what is truly valuable and what's not. Like what Jesus said, love God, respect God above all else as the source of everything good. Everything, every good quality, characteristic, and attribute that you have or anybody else has came from above. And understand this, that He said the second greatest commandment is this: to love one another as you love yourselves. That means to care about others as much as you care about yourself. You will find happiness if you do these things from the one that doles out happiness. Okay, this is the promise. So I'm all for education. There's always somebody that knows more about something than you. So I'm all for it. Go for it. And we need people, smart people. I'm all for invention and innovation. I'm all for people working together. You got a dental appointment. I'm all for being to it on time. Okay? I say don't be beholden. We don't need to be beholden, but there's nothing wrong with being cooperative with one another. You say, hey, we got a project. We need so many people at least to get this project done, and we want to do it this particular time for this particular reason, and there's understanding. And then you got all these people leaping into service to do that thing so that we can, get that bridge support up or whatever it is we want to do collectively. All this stuff that we have today, all the invention, all the ingenuity, all the infrastructure, all the progress, all the technology would be here if it wasn't for money. It was done with manpower, okay, and woman power, the same thing. And remember that it all came from God. God gave us the brain, the wherewithal, to do those things. So every stitch of technology came from above. We've got to fundamentally understand these basic truths. This is basic wisdom and understanding. So I made a list of some of the things that I find, to be often conflated. Necessary suffering with unnecessary suffering. And we're confused and conflated about these things, and I believe intentionally, because this is what our overlords want from us. They want us to be confused about, it's just, it's miserable to be human, and, why don't you just kill yourselves because, we do know that these top elitists speak openly about wanting to depopulate the earth. Look at the Georgia Guidestones. They want to get rid of some, 85% plus of the population, get it down to 500 million. They think that's a comfortable, sustainable level. Okay, so these people are very sick. They're not offering to kill themselves as a sacrifice to Gaia, Earth, to save the planet. These are usurpers. These people exalt themselves above gods. All this chemtrailing stuff, all this stuff is indicative, of it's symptomatic, symbolic of how these people roll. From the very top, they usurp. We got to control everything. We got to control the money supply. We got to control the masses. We got to control everything. And all we do, we create chaos. We control through chaos, through maintaining and hopefully propagating, proliferating the problems. Dirty fuel. We could have been off it a long time ago. Everything is about money, okay? That's where it's unnecessary human suffering. When people die in an airplane crash because, it would have been more expensive to put GPS on board that would have avoided it. I mean, this recent airplane crash, we couldn't go above the thunder clouds because they said there was traffic up there. Oh, that's interesting. I haven't heard another word. What traffic was it specifically? You say you don't have GPS, you don't know nothing about where a plane is, you can't track it to know exactly where it went down. How does that explain that flight that disappeared? Where more people ended up going missing than all the other combined flights in all of history. More people disappeared in that one flight. That Malaysians, what was it? 737, whatever that flight was, 370, flight 370, that's what it was. Where all those people disappeared. More than not a trace. Not on land or in the sea. That's absurd. What happened to them? Why isn't the media talking about this? And with all the cell phones on board, with the latest technology, it was too expensive. It was about money that we can't find these people. Okay? It's absurd that we're believing this stuff. What is it? What's going on here? Okay, if I had my way, every passenger airliner would be equipped with ejection seats for every passenger. And no, the parachutes aren't going to get tangled because they would come out synchronistically. In other words, they start at the back of the plane, and you time it X amount, of seconds before the next seat goes out. But when you're going at X amount of speed, you know that you could do that pretty rapidly. And so if it's over sea, you could have floating cushions, so that once they parachute to the ocean, they could have rafts that would inflate automatically upon impact. You could have rations on board. Okay, I'm just saying that all these things could exist. We could have helicopters, that with parachutes. So if they're going down, they send up a parachute out the center of the rotor, so it's not going to get tangled in the rotor, and the whole helicopter could float gently to the ground. I'm just saying, it's all about money. And why don't we have helicopters that can inject water into a skyscraper like on 9/11. I mean, what is this? We've got toys taking pictures on Mars, but you're telling me what I'm saying is too far-fetched, too sci-fi, or is it again about money? So again, these are examples of unnecessary human suffering that we might not associate with being unnecessary suffering that causes injury or death, okay, and or death often. How about pedestrian crosswalks? How's that an example? Right there, okay? Light them up like Christmas trees. Anytime there's a pedestrian in the crosswalk, you have a motion sensor. You've got flashing lights, you've got illumination over the crosswalk. Again, it's about money. It's not that you don't have a willing workforce willing to do these things, to create these things, to manufacture these things. It's because you've got a perverted gaggle of merciless thugs running our lives, running our policy, running roughshod over decent humanity. Yes, and I'm angry, I'm agitated, I'm frustrated, I'm here to tell you I am. And I'm going to get it off my chest because I was born in America. And I'm being a good American. Beyond that, I'm being a good human being. Maybe if I was born in China, I'd say the same thing. Speak truth to power, because I'm not a coward. I've got a conscience. I've got to live with myself. And I'm trying to encourage other people to have a conscience and live with themselves. And say, I am somebody. I know who I am. I know what I am. I'm God's child. I'm a little God. And I'm encouraging all of you to think like that, to be empowered. Don't be disempowered the way they want you to be through confusion. Through believing that, oh, there's nothing I can do, so I guess I'm just going to go along with ever-increasing social economic injustice. Stand up against it. That's one thing I respect about the protesters in Ferguson. I do not respect violence, because all you're doing is mitigating any real progress. You're nullifying it. You're negating it with violence. Store it up, treasure it, and be empowered with the truth, with saying, no, I'm going to speak truth to power. And it is mathematical. I can end the disparity between the haves and have-nots. And I can do it without taking from the haves, without taxes. So no, I do not respect socialism in that regard. I do not respect Che Guevara. I do not respect Ronald Reagan. Because both these men have one thing in common. They believe in violence. So if you call Ronald Reagan a good capitalist, or Che Guevara a good socialist or communist, whatever, I don't respect that, because both men said, I condone violence to get my way. Well, I don't condone violence to get my way. But I do condone speaking truth to power. And anybody else that will hear. And let it be contagious. Let it be attractive. Let it just settle in your soul and say, yes, I'm going to be somebody. I'm going to stand up for my weaker brother or sister who's going to die out there in the cold tonight. Why? Because of necessary suffering? No. I'm here to tell you that it's manufactured, deliberate, intentional human suffering. They're killing us through social economic genocide. And I'm here to tell you it's wrong. It'll never be right. And you'd better stop it. You better stop it. Because one way or another, God's will is going to be done. And if you think it's a God's will that people are dying out in the cold or getting their head kicked in by some punk kid thug that thinks he's doing his parents, the business owner, a favor. They've been sleeping and crapping in the doorway. And the easiest thing, I'm going to go with the flow here. Okay? And the easiest thing to do is to confront him. And if he's not going to leave, I'm going to kick his head in for you, Mom, Dad. And I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just going to do it as a service to you because I love you. And I know that this is my social economic security if I do this thing. It's so, and then if the police, if they cave to this, they've got to stand up too. We need to get the authorities on our side here. And the only way to do that is to empower the police to speak truth to power. They'll listen to the police. Say, you want protection from us? Well, I'm not going to kick that guy out of that house you stole from him, banksters. You go do it. You're so tough, Okay? You go put on a holster. You go pack heat. You go kick those what do they call them now? They call them squatters, right? You know? You go kick those squatters out. It's disgusting, you know? I'm no worthy of not perishing out of the cold than anybody else.